Welcome to the Rainmaker podcast with your host, Gui Costin. The goal of this podcast is to give listeners a unique look into sales strategies from top industry executives. We introduce you to the heads of sales and heads of distribution who will help you understand the inner workings of the successful sales organizations from philosophy to execution. This podcast is essential for sales professionals seeking wisdom from the best in the field. If you're not familiar with Dakota and their Dakota Rainmaker content, please check out dakota.com to learn more about their services.
This episode is brought to you by Dakota Marketplace. Are you tired of constantly jumping between multiple databases and channels to find the right investment opportunities? Introducing Dakota Marketplace, the comprehensive institutional and intermediate database built by fundraisers for fundraisers. With Dakota Marketplace, you'll have access to all channels and asset classes in one place, saving you time and streamlining your fundraising process. Say goodbye to the frustration of searching through multiple databases, websites, Form ADVs, and say hello to a seamless and efficient fundraising experience. Sign up now and see the difference Dakota Marketplace can make for you. Visit dakota.com/Dakota-Marketplace today. What is up, everybody? It's Gui Costin, founder and CEO of Dakota. Welcome to the latest edition of the Rainmaker podcast. Today, I am joined by Troy Chakarun. Welcome.
Thanks, Gui.
You got it. He's the managing director and head of private wealth and alternatives distribution at Voya Investment Management. So, Troy, welcome. Thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Gui.
Troy Chakarun is the head of private wealth and alternatives distribution at Voya Investment Management. He's responsible for leading the general sales team's efforts in the RIA, multifamily office, single-family office, bank trust, TAMP, and institutional advisor markets. Troy also has direct responsibility for specialist sales team's distribution of privates and alternative sales across the intermediary channel. Prior to Voya, Troy was a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch and Bank of America. Troy earned a BA in economics from the University of Arizona and an MBA from the Eller College of Management at U of A. Could you give us just a little background on yourself and then kick in a little background on Voya, please?
Sure. So I went to the University of Arizona, also known as the Harvard of the West. And while I was in college...
Did you grow up out there, or?
I grew up all over the place. So California, Arizona, New Jersey, and a lot of different circuits. But,
nice.
So I was at U of A and... just, a dumb college kid. One of my fraternity brothers had started an internship at Merrill Lynch, and I decided I would go do that with them. So it basically involved us going to the happy hour and going back and making cold calls. Sometimes we got kicked out of the office, sometimes we didn't. But anyway, I learned what I thought I wanted to do when I got older. When I got out of college, I moved to San Francisco, started working at Merrill Lynch in San Francisco, worked with some P-Big teams, worked with some stock plan teams, worked with retirement plan team. So I got a lot of broad exposure. And, I decided after about a decade of being an advisor that it wasn't really my jam. I was more interested in the investment side of things than I was in sort of the people going to retire on time or is a kid going to go to college side of things. So
right.
I did a self-evaluation one day. I wrote down pros and cons and things I like to do and things I don't like to do. And it just kind of dawned on me, like, wow, I should go be a wholesaler, right?
Right.
So I had a lot of buddies that were wholesalers that never even thought about it, but decided I'd give it a whirl. So put the resume out there, and randomly one day I get a box to my office when I was still an advisor. It's a big box of literature, and I was like, what the heck is this? And the ING wholesaler at the time had sent me a whole box of, I think it was senior income fund tear sheets. And so I called the number on there. I'm like, hey, you guys sent me this box of stuff. I didn't order this. It's like, oh yeah, my buddy Ryan's going to come by and talk to you about it. This is his way of getting in the door with me. And he starts pitching me on the bank loan fund. I said, Ryan, hold on. I'm getting out of here. I said, you guys happen to be hiring? He said, I don't know. So I sent my resume in to ING funds at the time. And I got 2 different calls the same day. One was from the desk manager and one was from the national sales manager. So I flew down to Scottsdale. I interviewed. And I had interviewed with the national sales manager first, and I walked out there, and he's basically like, well, this is how it'll start, and blah, blah, blah. Because my old office, the Merrill Lynch in San Francisco office, was the largest office in the whole territory, right? So it's
right.
kind of a no-brainer. So I carried the bag with ING, covered the wires, and then in 2008, kind of in the middle of the financial crisis, we decided to start the private wealth team, which at the time we were covering the RAs, bank trusts, and we had the P-Bigs and PWMs of the world at that point in time too. So fast forward 2 years, we went from 80% of the revenue coming from the wires to 80% of the wire coming from the RAs, and we kind of gave back most of the wire stuff back to the wirehouse guys. We kept the Greystones, but we still do. But so, fast forward another 10 years or so, I went into management. I started running the private wealth team, which is what we call our RA and family office channel. And then about 9 years ago, we launched the first interval private equity secondaries fund that our firm offers. And I started that team as well. So the two teams combined now are about half of the revenue for intermediary distribution. And we've got 6 generalists on the private wealth team, fully staffed. We're 6 on the desk as well, plus a couple of admin type. And then we've got 7 in the field on the specialist side. I just channelized them a couple of weeks ago. So we've got 3 on the wires right now, 4 on the RIA and family office side of the market. And then we have 3 on the desk, and we'll have another admin there as well. The specialist team also works with my counterpart Paul's team. So Paul runs the broker-dealer channel. They've got 17 inside and outside there. So the specialists kind of balance both teams. And the reason why we bifurcated the team was that, you get a big firm on, like a Merrill or Morgan or somebody like that, then everybody's attention shifts over there, right? And the challenge is you got to keep a lot of pressure on that RIA family office space constantly for a long time before a sale happens. So It was our way of kind of figuring out the best model for that group.
Well, that's great. So I now have a really clear overview of how your team is set up and the structure. Walk me through how you think about sales process. And what I really want to get at and kind of unpack is that is there a standard sales process that you want everyone to follow? Is it individual based upon the groups? How have you set that up?
Relatively standardized. We start with data, right? I'm a big data guy. I don't know if you know this or not, but everybody does, I think.
Yeah, I love it.
So we use a lot.
By the way, I want to get into your roundtables. You can't not leave your roundtables
Okay, yeah,
out.
we'll definitely hit on that. So we start with data, and I was early adopter, I think, probably on data side of things. We did a lot of proof of concepts over the years. We utilize, 5, 6 different third-party data packs, basically, in some firm debt level and all that stuff too. But at the end of the day, our guys know where the best opportunities are. They know what they want to go after, right? So I think that's like take all the guesswork out of it, right? Totally different than when I was in the field, 15 plus years ago. You could ask somebody a question 50 times over 2-3 years and you never get the right answers, right? But Now you know what you're fishing, which I'm not gonna say it's shooting fish in a barrel, but it's definitely a different game.
So the data has been extremely impactful and successful for you all.
Data has been huge, yeah. And we've gotten to a point with it, and I'll go deeper in a minute, but we've gotten to a point with it where we now also have time series of data because we've been capturing it for a while. And that's very useful when you go through market cycles and kind of know where the puck's going to go. Yeah. And that's a unique item out there. But so we take the data at the territory level, and it's about 8 products that we sort of identify for folks across the firm. So if you're an RIA and I'm the sales guy, when I walk in to see you, I know sort of your opportunity set in about 8 different buckets, and we highlight the best bucket for each of them to go in there. The field further breaks down their territories into zones. So most territories have about 7 zones, and our ask is that they rotate through them on a quarterly basis. So rotating them doesn't always mean meeting with them, because we know it's harder and harder to meet with people, right? But it means you've at least reached out and via email and phone at least once a quarter, with the idea of obviously getting a meeting, right? And speaking to getting the meetings, I'll hit on the roundtables here. So, man, I don't even know when we started doing them. It's probably been 15 plus years ago. I started doing roundtables out on the West Coast. I was still in the field at the time.
And how do you define a roundtable?
Yeah, so a roundtable for us is working with other asset managers and centers of influence in a particular geography. And so what happens, and you started organically, and this is probably one of the better kept secrets out there, is if you and I are buddies and you're at a firm, and I'm at a firm, like, hey man, you having a hard time getting meetings? Like, yeah, we all are, right?
Right.
And hey, do you know John Smith at XYZ firm? Oh yeah, I know John Smith. Our kids play soccer. I'm like, dude, I've been trying to get that guy forever. We go to lunch. So I was doing that naturally in the field for quite a while, and I was like, how do I take this to the next level, right? And so I grabbed 2 guys and I said, hey, you guys, would you be interested in doing this once a quarter? We'll just get together, a group of us, we'll talk about trends in the market, meaning, are you seeing flows go to emerging market debt? Are you seeing private equity, where are you seeing flows? Trends in the local market. Has somebody moved from firm X to firm Y? Is a new CIO at another firm? Is there a new analyst on a team? That type of intel. And then the last part, which everybody likes the best, is everybody come prepared with a couple of names they're trying to get in front of, right?
Right.
So I started out small. I had 2 guys. Hey guys, you want to do this? They're like, yeah, we definitely want to do this. I said, all right, let's all get 2 more people. And so the first meeting, I think we had 10 people at the first meeting, right? And then second meeting, we had 20 people, and it got big. It got to like 50 was my kind of normal roundtable size for
Wow.
a number of years. And we do it very strategically. Go around the room. Everybody chooses himself. I'm Troy. I'm from Voya. I cover RAs in the Northwest. And you go around like that, so you kind of know who everybody's in the room and where they work and what they cover. And then you go around the room once, which is trends in the market. Twice, which is trends in the local market. And the last one, which is what everybody comes. You got to have their pens and papers out, right? Which is, who are you trying to get in front of? And everybody's trying to get in front of the same hard people, right? Like someone at the table is going to know that one person that everybody in the room wants to know. So, we go around and say, does anybody know John Smith at XYZ? And some of the, oh yeah, I know John Smith at XYZ. We used to be business partners at blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, do you mind if I give you a call next week? Sure. Write down their name. So then the idea is that post roundtable, you go out and I call Gui, hey, can you grab so-and-so and we'll go to lunch and I'll buy lunch. And we go, so I'm just trying to meet the person, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of it is a relationship game. Once you meet them, they're going to take a meeting with you. So that's what we've done for a lot of years. And for my sales team, I don't want to use the word mandate, but we strongly encourage to do it on a quarterly basis. And then if you have multiple geographies, like, if you have Boston and New York, the guys do one in Boston and one in New York.
Well, it's a key part of your sales process.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, it makes so much sense, right?
Yeah.
Just tapping into the collective knowledge of your industry colleagues.
It's working smarter and harder.
Right.
Yeah.
And just as long as you're a giver, right? I mean, everyone has to be a contributor,
Yeah.
right? You just can't be a taker.
And it's not just a random invite to people. It's like somebody do you guys want to do this? Yeah, we want to do this. So people that are there are invested in doing this and doing it well.
That's great.
And so I'm going to take that to 2.0 real quick.
Yeah.
2.0 of that is you do this for, let's say you do this for 3-4 quarters, and you know everybody who's coming. People come regularly, you know who regularly contribute. And once you have your round table, you know who your top 5 or 6 people are from that round table. So where I took it to the next level when I was in the field is I took my inner circle, is what I called it, and we did a monthly call. So the 6 of us were a subset of their broader round table. We did a monthly call, and we said, can you commit to get on a call once a month? Yep. So we have us and our internals all got on call. So there's 12-ish people on each call, and everybody on there each learned what that one person's, obviously not competing products, learned what that person's one thing that they were out there selling the most of, right? So for me, if it was private equity secondaries, they knew that. If it was someone that was selling large cap growth, they knew that. And in every meeting, and I recommend that everybody does this regardless of what you're selling, always ask, do you have any open searches right now? Because you would be surprised how many times you don't ask that question. The guy who follows you in the meeting next week asks the question, lo and behold, they have something that you could have sold them that you didn't even ask them about.
Yeah.
So where the inner circle roundtables really got interesting is that when, as a person, as a human being, you can only do so many meetings in a week, right? You only have so much time in your day, and you only have so much things you can do. So if you train the other 5 people to ask if there's any ongoing searches, every single monthly call that we did, I learned of 2 or 3 searches that I either would not have been in front of them because it was out of my rotation plan, or for some reason they weren't in my focus list, or I didn't ask them the right question. But every single call, I got 2 or 3 new leads out of it.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it.
So it exponentially grows your pipeline.
And the key factor here is asking the tough question, which is any open searches in the next year.
Open searches, and knowing your buddy's product set too.
Yeah. That is brilliant. So talk to me about communication. I believe so strongly in getting alignment with upper management, your PM, whatever that might be as an individual salesperson. Let's do it in 2 ways. How do you communicate, and how does your team communicate on a weekly, monthly basis?
At the team level, we have 2 calls a month. One call is what we call, which we just had today for one of my teams actually, which is our best practices call. And that one is rotated. Each of the team members hosts it. I chime in, but they host it. It's not like a top pipeline review. It's kind of a combination of your biggest and best pipeline with what was it that was the hook that set the hook, what was the angle, what was it that really drove, either piqued the advisor's interest or made us look favorable versus a competitor, or what was that edge or that angle that really, really mattered that other people can benefit from? And it's all about sharpening your sword, and the more you continue to, as a group, think in that direction, the sharper and sharper everybody's swords get. And we are getting back into that cadence after, I hate to say it, but after the pandemic, which seems to never have died, right? But prior to the pandemic, we were awesome at it, and we're back to getting good at it again. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it; it's taken longer to do it than I would have liked. But so we have one call that's team best practice, and then our other call is a product education, and as part of it, and the other part of it is a business partner update. So we'll have marketing and business development and operations and other parts of the org on that call.
Oh, great.
Yeah. One-on-one calls.
Yeah.
We do twice a month also.
Okay.
So we do a 1 hour call. I think it's week 2. And the 1 hour call is really going through pipeline, top ones, talk me through this, is there anything else we can be doing to help this along? Have you thought about this? You thought about that? Have you heard of any interesting competitor noise, even today, or did good competitor noise on our group call? And then it's housekeeping, it's training and compliance and all that sort of thing. And then our other call, which is a half an hour, which is on the 4th week of the month, I believe, is really more of a quick catch up in the top pipeline hits. So it's pretty structured.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the best practices in sharing.
Yeah,
right.
It's the best. That's my favorite.
Totally brilliant.
I get on Paul's calls. He gets on my calls. So I get on the broker dealer channel calls. He gets on my calls. I like hearing about what's new, what's going on. I think you have to be a consummate student of the markets.
We have a monthly, we used to call them offsites, now I call them W days, and each division comes in and reports and has a conversation with the executive team on 2 questions: what's working, what's not working, right? And mostly end up listening to what's not working,
right?
And then all you're there is to solve problems for them, right? Just get it out. What's working? Okay, it's working good. No, it's not working. So totally brilliant. Okay, how do you? What is your process for reporting?
I would say to that point, I would say I do end every one of my one-on-one calls with, "What can I do, or can I help you with anything?"
Right. Because
then you get the what's not working things on one-on-one, and you don't get them on the group calls, and it doesn't turn into a bitch session.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah. It's these have been remarkable. The stuff that we have learned and gotten out of people so we can help, right, has been tremendous. And everyone's pretty open to communicating about that.
Yeah.
And everyone loves them. So what is your cadence for communicating up to your executive?
Our cadence upward is usually quarterly because we're a public company, so don't really have a choice in that matter, to be honest with you. But so we're very, I wouldn't say we're strict, we're very on top of pipeline. And depending on our investor types, so for our private equity team, right, we need to let them know on a quarterly basis how much capital's come in for our interval fund, because it's a quarterly fund, and they got to be able to deploy capital. It's not like the money comes in, they just hit a button, they go buy a bunch of stocks, right? So they got to be sourcing deals and timing that out. So for our private equity arm, we actually have 2 parts of the pipeline. We have the closest coming current quarter funding. It could be this quarter, it could be next quarter, but the next coming quarter and the amount, and then we have the total amount due. For all the other more, let's call it traditional products, it's just a regular pipeline. It's like, when's it due, or what's the total amount, and when do you think the anticipation date, and where's it in the stage and all that. But we use the pipeline, we take a weighted pipeline, and we do report that up to senior management. So it's very important for us because they use it in their forecasting to the street, right? Wow. That our team is on top of their pipelines. Now we do use a probability weighted one, I will add, but on a quarterly basis, we do push the pipeline, a probability weighted pipeline up, and then we give them usually 5 to 10 sort of talking points about what's going on in the field or the market. So if I could give a takeaway from this, not everybody that's listening to this podcast right now works for a bigger firm. Right. So they might be a 1-person sales team, 2, 3-person sales team at a boutique asset manager. Yeah. And what I've always recommended is you want to be Gui Costin Inc., okay, and treat yourself as a entity. It's your franchise.
It's your franchise, and then you want to have best practices. And so what you're getting at is if you treated upper management, even though it might be a $500 million boutique or $1 billion boutique, as if you're a public company and you're reporting pipeline up on a regular basis so they can monitor. I've always felt that I want to be the dog, not the tail.
Right.
Right. So I don't go playing golf and where are you? Where's the money? What's going on?
Yeah.
Is that we're so communicative, right, on pipeline that there's no guesswork. Everyone knows exactly where you are, and they know exactly where to find the information.
Yeah, and I will mention that, you have institutional, ultra net worth, and then kind of mass intermediary, if you want to call it that. And it gets harder to predict. The more components to the pipeline, the harder the predictability is, right? Because, the guys that cover the wirehouses, you got a lot more than you have like at the RAs, and the RAs have a lot more than you have in the institutional side, right? So it's just, it's an art and a science, but it's very important to keep it up. That's for sure.
So speaking of keeping it up, my next topic,
I think I know where you're going with this,
is the importance of a CRM. And in your own words, the value that salespeople and organizations can benefit from, obviously. And I know you assume that everybody uses a CRM.
Right,
That's just not the case.
Yeah.
And so we're here to really unpack how important that is to you when running your operation.
I'll back up one step. When I was in the field, I almost always had 3 to 4 pages of notes per meeting. And people laugh at that. Well, that's how you capture the right information.
Right.
And after a while, and you'll notice, see this bump on my finger right here again. After a while, I went to a company called LiveScribe, and you could write on paper, and it would digitize it, right? This is way before all the newer stuff. This is 10 plus 15 years ago. And I would get a PDF of my chicken scratch, and it was take a long time to type that stuff in. And so we had just started using a firm out of the Philippines back then to dial in your notes. So you could come out of a meeting and say, met with John Smith, we talked about blah, 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 right? And they would put it in the CRM for you. And like, well, how do I streamline that even more? And this is me just being me back in the day, because I'm very organized and I don't like repetitive processes.
And very innovative, obviously.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would take my notes and I'd get my PDF of my LiveScribe notes, and I would email it to the same people that were listening to our phone calls and taking the notes, and they would transcribe it in there. Now, it wasn't perfect transcription, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, we're using an evolved version of that technology that we've been using for a decade. And our guys and gals can call in. They have a certain cadence that they do it, and they get the notes exactly into the CRM, how they go. And they can also BCC correspondence, or they can email them a note, and they'll also get it in there. So we try to make it as streamlined as possible to get meeting notes, call notes into the CRM, the right products tagged to them, make sure we're capturing the essence of it. And we are getting close to also implementing a kind of, I don't know the exact name of it, but where you can basically talk in your phone and it does it, transcribes it, and puts it in there for you too.
Oh, that's great. And so for you, a CRM really runs the sales organization. The data with
CRM is huge. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know what you would do without it. Really, it's the backbone.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you guys, just a little technical question, how do you get the meetings scheduled into the CRM that someone schedules?
How do we schedule?
Yeah. No, just how do you get the day? Do they just put it in you just rely on the salespeople to enter? Because I think even before the call notes, any meetings that are scheduled, I call them bars of gold. It's so important to get those meetings that you've scheduled into the CRM.
So I, when I was still covering the wires, it was about my third year in carrying the bag in the wholesale world. I got tired of people just flaking on meetings. I'm like, I don't have time for this, right? And so I got to a point where if they will not accept a Outlook meeting invite from me for a set period of time, wires, it's usually a half hour, RAs is usually an hour. But I would always send them, Outlook invite. Usually I did it when I was in the office with them, like, hey, I'll be back in a quarter. We would set it right then and there, and they'd accept it while I was in there, which was a very good best practice, by the way.
Yeah.
But I always said, John Smith -XYZ firm, their phone number / my name - my firm and my phone number. That way, if anyone ever needed to change anything, we all had the information right there. It was super easy to do business with.
Brilliant.
They could either click with the email, or they could call it, or their admin could. And then confirming the meeting a week or two ahead of time. It's, everybody's busy, and I know things happen, but it's just, you got to have it on the calendar. And our calendar, our Outlook calendar, syncs right into the CRM. So it's on there, it's in there already ahead of time, and then people just go in and put the notes.
So you're doing it through a sync through Outlook too, Salesforce, what have you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, that follow-up is brilliant. So, all right, I love it. So we all know the CRM's world class, and you're very innovative on your approach, which I love. Leadership. So I'd love you to just, because I just believe in every day and age, but more importantly in this day and age, how you treat people really drives longevity, it drives culture, it flows downhill, everything. Could you talk about your leadership style and describe it?
Yeah, I would say I really try to foster a team environment. I'd say I run a flat org. Anybody can cut me with anything.
I love that, by the way.
And try to be just a team player. Even like I was telling you, we just had our team call before I came in here an hour ago.
Yeah.
And, I still put my brain back in their seat and, think about what could help at the point of sale. I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, your job is to make their lives better and easier. And, obviously take on all the problems and the BS that they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But, that's how I run the team. And I think, a big part of my job, I'd say I don't do as much sort of one-on-one in the field time stuff. In fact, not much at all anymore, because it's just, you get busy running the business. You got to work with marketing and product and legal and finance and all the other people that will make the equation work, right? But both of my two teams that I manage right now predominantly are all very seasoned salespeople, and I trust them, and they trust me, and we have our team calls twice a month and our one-on-one calls twice a month. So a lot of communication, and we're big on not texting, right? But Teams chatting or whatever. Somebody needs to get hold of me immediately. Just send me a Teams chat.
Oh, that's great. So, and your leadership style, it sounds like it's team-based, open door policy. Anybody can come to you, ask any question. Because I just finished up interviewing Todd Myers from Blackstone. He said basically Steve Schwartzman has that same approach.
Right.
He loves to hear what's going on in the field so he can be helpful.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing we didn't hit on there is just when we work with people to give them their segmentation data and they put their zones in, we then take the zones, we put on the calendar. So there's never any confusion between the desk and the field about where somebody wants to be and who they want to see, right? So if they're calling 4 weeks out in advance, which is what my preference is, then if the internal doesn't have a good luck on week 4, the external on week 3 can do it, and they can both do it week 2, and you don't look desperate trying to get a meeting, a week before the appointment. So I think with everybody knowing who they want to see, where they want to be, it kind of takes the guesswork out of the equation. And so I try to provide all the tools that I can to help people run their business without me meddling in it, basically.
I love that.
Yeah.
So with that, my next question is one of my favorites is, what would you tell a young salesperson entering the industry today? What
you said I can't say the other thing.
No, you can't. What advice would you give
them?
I
would say, be a consummate student of the markets. And it doesn't have to be the financial markets, but the job that you're working in. Like, what are best practices for getting a meeting, or being super sharp about who your competitors are on a product or an asset class, learning about an asset class, but being technology forward, learning how to use data. I mean, data is here to stay. It runs through every single business there is out there. And if it doesn't, that business probably not going to be here in a couple of years, right?
Right, exactly.
So data-driven business model, marketing tech stack, learning how to leverage all that. My daughter just graduated the Harvard of the West as well.
Oh, beautiful.
Last week. So she's moving to the East Village tomorrow, actually.
Oh, great.
We're helping her move into an apartment tomorrow. And she's been doing a lot of informational interviewing and may or may not go down our exact path, which is fine with me.
Yeah.
But, a lot of feedback that we're getting out there is have that PowerPoint and that Excel skills. Go take the class, get the accolade on your resume, and I'll take that to the next level and say probably Power BI or Tableau are very useful skills to have as a young individual coming into the industry too.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Well, I couldn't agree more. Just being, just a lifelong learner, right? But always being inquisitive. Clearly you espouse that. You live it. Yeah. Right. It's just from talking to you. So that's great. So in closing, biggest obstacle right now for you as a distribution leader?
The biggest obstacle is probably...
Or challenge.
There's a lot of challenges out there. To have to pick one.
Yeah, just pick one.
I would say, I'm going to pick two.
Okay.
Two things. One is affecting growth in corporate America right now, when a lot of the infrastructure is going through sort of changes in tech stack, changes in processes because of the changes in tech stack, the integration of AI and natural language processing, all these things. There's a lot of changes going on. So it's like just making sure you're keeping that pedal on the metal going in the right direction while you have all this other noise going on. But on top of that, I would say, retention of talent right now. I mentioned one of the groups I run is a private equity distribution team, and there's a lot of big private equity players coming into the market out there, throwing a lot of dollars around.
Right.
So it's that's a challenge. Is how do you compensate and retain when you are coming from a traditional wholesaling firm or traditional asset management firm who has moved into alts, as opposed to an alt player who's used to deeper pockets and spending more. So I would say like our alt part of our business, we're highly investing in that. We're growing that direction. That's totally high net worth and ultra high net worth privates and alts is the direction of the firm. But we're an asset manager who traditionally was long only, right? And we have a portion of our book in that direction. So we have a lot of portion of our book with a lot lower margin stuff than you have on the alt side. And so the bigger the margin, obviously the bigger the pocket. So it makes it challenging to keep talent when one of the bigger shops can come out and double their income overnight, right?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. It makes complete sense. Well, just from listening to you, incredibly thoughtful, incredibly innovative, right, of how you built the business. Clearly, you've been in the seat for a long time. You have a leadership style that people want to work with you. You have long tenured salespeople, right? So congratulations on what you've built.
Thank you.
Thanks for
having me today.
You got it. Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I
Very
appreciate
insightful.
you.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Troy. Everyone, that's a wrap on another edition of the Rainmaker podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and I can't wait to see you on the next Rainmaker podcast.
You can find this episode and others on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. We are also available on YouTube if you prefer to watch while you listen. If you would like to check up on past episodes, check out our website, dakota.com. Finally, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please be sure to like, follow, and share these episodes. We welcome all your feedback as well. Thank you for investing your time with Dakota.
Hey, thanks so much for joining Rainmaker Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the show, enjoyed the interview. I know I loved it. And hey, if you wake up in the morning and you raise money for an investment firm, you do cold outreach, whether you're a sales leader or salesperson, and you don't know about Dakota Marketplace, we would love to show it to you. It's world-class. It's used by over 880 investment firms and over 3,600 individual salespeople. To learn more, go to dakota.com and click on a free trial.